Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast. Today is May the 8th. This is episode 486. Yes, 486. Matt, after having done two double shows back to back, is taking a well-deserved break, which means I'm back from assignment. In case you were wondering where I was, first off, it was draft day, which means it was also Stagecoach weekend. And boy, do I have some thoughts about Stagecoach. We'll get to that in the music section. And last week, we'll had other stuff going on. So let's get right into the news topics of this week. We start with the music section. Start the music section with the Billboard. Start the Billboard with the Hot 100. And the hottest song in the land is Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA. Coming in at 2 is Ordinary by Alex Warren. At 3, Die with a Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars. Coming in at 4, Nokia by Drake. And running at your top 5 is a bar song, Tipsy by Shabuzi. If that sounded familiar, it's because Ordinary and Die With a Smile swapped places at 2 and 3. As for your album chart, your Billboard 200 at number 1 and debut at number 1 is Skeleton by Ghost. Bet you didn't see that coming. This does mean that the rest of your top 5 from last week and the week before, and probably the week before, now drop down one spot, which means SOS by SZA comes in at number 2, GNX by Kendrick Lamar comes in at 3, One Thing at a Time by Morgan Wallen comes in at number 4, and rounding your top 5, Short in Sweet by Sabrina Carpenter. It does mean that Party Next Door and Drake are out of the top 5, down at number 6 with some sexy songs for you. If you like any of those albums, we have new releases, starting with Mother's Day weekend releases by various artists. Me about favorite various artists because I did not look up what the new releases were. So if you are celebrating Mother's Day this weekend and want to pop up open a brand new album, you can go on right ahead. It'll be a smorgasbord of various artists that you may not want your mom to listen to. So instead, put on some oldies. She'll appreciate it. Let's go into the music news. And speaking of oldies, we covered the finalists of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in February. Well, the official lists have finally been revealed for the class of 2025. Confirmed to be entering the Hall of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame later this year, we have Bad Company, Chubby Checkers, Joe Crocker, Cyndi Lauper, Outkast, Soundgarden, and the White Stripes as this year's inductees. Salt and Pepper and Warren Zevon are being honored with the Musical Influence Award, still technically getting into the Hall of Fame, just not as the group. Three other names are getting in there. Or sorry, four other names are getting there, including Tom Bell, Nicky Hopkins, and Carol Kay will be entering under the Musical Excellence Award, with Lenny Waronker, who was a producer and executive best known for his long stint as the president of Warner Records, will be this year's Ahmet Ertegun Award recipient and thus entering the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The induction will take place on November 8th at the Peacock Theater in LA, where it will be streamed live to Disney Plus that same night. A special will air on ABC proper network at a later date and will definitely be cut down for time and television. This will be the fourth time the induction will take place in Los Angeles, and the first time since 2022. The nominees who are also on the ballot, or the finalists, but missed this year's cut include the Black Crowes, Mariah Carey, Billy Idol, Joy Division, New Order, Mana, Oasis, and Fish. Fun fact about Fish, they actually won the fan vote, which is the popularity contest held by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the finalists. Unfortunately, winning the fan vote does not automatically guarantee you a spot in the class of that year. This does bode well for the chances later down the line, especially should they win the fan vote again. But I do expect to see Mariah Carey, Billy Idol, and Oasis back in the finalists, if not making the next class sometime soon. But yeah, congratulations to a lot of these artists, especially Chubby Checkers, who, one, still alive at 85, two, still touring at 85, three, has technically been nominated or could have been nominated for the ballot since the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame started back in 1985, but his name just never appeared on the ballot until this year, which he made as a first-time ballot nominee. So congratulations to Chubby Checkers, because this rock and roll induction ceremony will take place in LA at the Peacock Theater on November 8th. It may be a good time for me to check that out. Yes, I know that will be a very, 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 very long show, as they typically run for like 6 to 8 hours, just because you got to go through everyone. But it does kind of ask the question of who would be the ones inducting everyone, because now we got 5 months or so to speculate, as the news will surely and slowly come out of who will be inducting who and who will be playing with who during the rock and roll ceremony. But we have to wait till November 8th to have that officially stamped with approval. All right. I do have some thoughts because Matt was right. And you can save that clip right there. You can save it as your ringtone. You can save it as your text notification. You can send it to me whenever you think I'm wrong. Just a little voicemail just says, Matt was right. Because I did end up listening to Evangeline versus the Machine by Eric Church. So Eric Church, last time we saw him was at Stagecoach, but wasn't really at Stagecoach. So I believe it was last year. He was the headliner for Stagecoach. Sorry, was that last year? No, that was 2 years ago. He was the headliner for Stagecoach. And everyone was excited for Eric Church because he always puts on a good, heavy rock show, especially since he came out with Heart, his Heart album, his Soul album, as well as Ampersand, making Heart and Soul Trio, which was one of my favorite albums of 2023. Ended up as part of my number 5 because I just grouped them all together, and I can do that at the end. It's my list, and I do what I want. So coming out with a new album, I already heard the single on this, so I was very cautiously optimistic in learning more about like what this would be. And I don't want to say I'm technically disappointed in it, but I will say that it's not something just to write home about and be excited for, if that makes sense. Um, it starts off pretty strong, I would say. You got your one of the top songs out there, "Bleed on Paper," which like it hits, it runs, it goes. But that song starts to trend throughout the rest of this album, which is that the songs themselves are very long. It's a 34-minute album. There's 8 songs on the album. Each song is between 4 and 5 minutes, which means that you have a lot of either intro to each song before you actually get going into it, or a very long outro where it's just Eric Church pretty much just jamming. Sometimes that works. Sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes you're like, okay, when's the next song starting? Okay, I get it. You just keep going. When's the next one? Are we done here? Yes, no. It kind of flows in between that. Um, Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. It's really middle of the road, and your mileage will vary, especially with Eric Church and where he stands. More or less like ever since his Stagecoach performance. I do like Johnny on here because it is a response song, as a lot of songs out there are response songs to The Devil Went Down to Georgia. Johnny follows in that long-standing tradition of uh, songs or reply songs of Johnny, go get your fiddle. Yeah, to send the Georgia back, the devil back to that sent Georgia back to hell. You send the devil back to hell because he escaped from Georgia. But yeah, it's not necessarily the best, I would say, not necessarily the worst, I would say. I mean, that's just also coming off of the high that was Heart and Ampersand and Soul, which I absolutely loved. And then following that from Desperate Man, which is a very 70s inspired album. So kind of falls off on that like rock sphere that he was going in. But not the worst, just not the best. I think he can do better. He has definitely put out better songs, definitely put out better singles. So mileage may vary with Evangeline versus the Machine. Now, on to Stagecoach 2025. And oh boy, do I have some thoughts. So while I've watched this Stagecoach staying at home, uh, I did catch most of, if not all of, the performances that occurred. So going through day by day, I will say that Zach Bryan, very middling as a performing artist. He had some hits, some of the stuff I knew. I don't think he knew how to work the crowd particularly well, and just kind of felt lost standing there on his own. That being said, Jelly Roll, on the other hand, completely waste of a spot. He was there last year. He performed a lot of his songs last year. This year, it was Jelly Roll and Friends. Jelly Roll brought out so many uh, accompanying acts with him that it started to no longer feel like a Jelly Roll uh, like set. He brought like Machine Gun Kelly. He brought out Garth Brooks. He brought out Lana Del Rey, and he brought out Shabuzi. He brought out Big X the Plug. He brought out Wiz Khalifa. He brought out Alex Warren. He brought out Brandon Lake, and like they all like came out and they sang their own songs. They didn't sing Jelly Roll songs. They sang their own songs. Now compare that to the following day, Midland, who we love here at the Media Bill podcast, came out, did more or less the same thing, where they brought out several guests to sing with them. Difference is though that they sang Midland songs. They didn't go out there and sing their own songs. They sang Midland songs with Midland. Whereas at Jelly Roll, it was Jelly Roll just letting other people go and take the stage, take the spotlight, and he was just there as like a hype man, which is not what you pay like $700 for a ticket for a headliner to just be sidelining his own time slot for other people. Yeah, it's fun. Like you get more artists come out to play a song or two, but that means you're taking away from the person you're probably there to see, which is the headliner. And we said this last year, Jelly Roll does not have the hits. He does not have the set list. He doesn't have the presence to be a headliner. And we were proven right this past year. On the other side of that, though, Luke Combs, banger after banger after banger after banger after banger. Uh, so many bangers, so many hits that he did not play sorry, he played one song off his latest album, my number two album of the year from last year, Fathers and Sons. He played one song from there. Disappointed. I was expecting more, but that is kind of the tussle you get with Stagecoach with these festivals is that do you play the hits or do you present a memorable experience? This goes back to our man, our album man, Eric Church, where he left a memorable experience and didn't play the hits. Whereas Luke Combs played the hits and was left with the middling, relatively positive experience because he did play the hits, but didn't play anything off of his new album, which left me a bit disappointed. And then there's the late night bands because what is Stagecoach anymore when you have T-Pain, when you have Creed, and when you have the Backstreet Boys closing out Stagecoach? The Backstreet Boys did announce that they would be having a new residency at the Sphere in Las Vegas. So if you're heading that way, you can check them out. But yeah, what is Stagecoach when you have kind of these hard to say call I guess I have to call them now legacy acts targeted toward uh festival goers of a certain age because T-Pain crowded, Creed crowded, Backstreet Boys crowded, technically not country, but here they are just performing away. Overall, I think I had a fun time watching it from my couch. It's going to be a hard sell for me to get back to it, especially if they keep the passes at like $700 or were they at yeah, 619 for a general 3-day pass or 730 for a shuttle combo pass. Hard for me to see spending that kind of money when I don't know, you could buy a new console for that experience for that kind of money. Assuming you did get the pre-order for the Switch 2. But yeah, from what I saw, I had a fun time. But I saw the artist that I wanted to see and had a fun time with. But yeah, just Jelly Roll, just utter stinker. If I could talk more shit on him, I probably would. Not as bad as like Morgan Wallen talking shit, because that's shit for a different reason. But just why he's like this very hyped up next in line like country singer for the big thing. I don't get it. I don't see it. It was a joke that we made. I don't know if we made it or saw on social media, but one of his songs is I only talk to God when I need a headliner because he is not a headliner. All right, enough about Stagecoach. Let's move on into video games, where we start with new releases, including Cat and Rabbit Pizza Farming for the Switch, Chaos Galaxy 2 for the Switch, Big Kitty, Little City. Wait, no, scratch that. Reverse it. Little Kitty, Big City for the PS4 and PS5. That was already out on PC and I think Xbox Series X. We next have Spiritfall for Xbox Series X, PS5, and the Switch. And lastly, your big release, Revenge of the Savage Planet. Wide release. You got it. You can play it. Speaking of games you can play and games you can pre-order, Grand Theft Auto 6, the hotly anticipated game of the year, has had a new trailer this week. And it was beautiful and it was gorgeous and it was taking advantage of all the ray tracing, all the hype of the engine. I actually think they probably pushed it a bit more from what I saw, but it looked like a good game. It looked beautiful. It looks like a big long story game that you can dive yourself into, as well as we know that they're going to add on the GTA Online portion of this, which makes it an even bigger game. Well, you can get your copy of Grand Theft Auto 6 on May 26th, 2026. Next year, one whole year, we have to wait until GTA 6 drops. In a social media post accompanying the new trailer, Rockstar Games said, quote, "With every game we have released, the goal has always been to try and exceed your expectations, and Grand Theft Auto 6 is no exception. We hope you understand that we need this extra time to deliver at the level of quality you expect and deserve." Close quote. What this means now with GTA 6 moving to next year, the Game of the Year race for 2020-25 has now not necessarily come wide open, but there's now essentially an extra slot open for that Game of the Year race, where we have other highly anticipated games coming out later this year, including Silk Song, uh, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, Doom, The Dark Ages, Ghost of Yotai, Mario Kart 9 or Mario Kart World, and then games that have already come out, including Monster Hunter Wilds, Clair Obscura, Expedition 33, and Blueprints. So lots of games. Still early, still in May, as to what can be potentially be considered Game of the Year. But with GTA 6 being moved out, we can expect to probably see GTA 6 next trailer at the Game Awards, maybe at Summerfest, although that is kind of like next month, so probably not. So probably expect the next to last, second to last final trailer, whatever, during the Game Awards, and maybe that's when I'll be able to pre-order because that's about 5 month window. But yeah, unfortunately, you gotta wait. Um, Technically, this is not a game high on my radar to play. I know. Ban me in the comments. Write to podcast at gmail.com. Tell me how wrong I am. You can try and convince me all you want to play this. Just, I don't know, fun fact, bad fact, I don't know. I've never actually played any of the GTA games prior to this. Wait, no, that's not true. I technically played GTA 4, but it was at a friend's house. It was and all I did was just go around throwing money at everything, and for like 30 minutes, and that's about all I got out of it. I did not. I have no interest. Like it doesn't interest me in playing it. I guess technically I did at one time own a copy of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas for the Xbox, but I know I never completed it, and I doubt I even got like out of the first act. It's just those games just do not interest me at all, but looks pretty, looks good. Um, if you tell me you'll like it, I will believe you. I will judge you something fierce if you say that, but you do you. All right. Speaking of Game of the Years, one of last year's nominee, Game of the Year 2024, Balatro, is out now on PS5, and it's a part of the Essentials collection of the month of May. So you can get your Balatro on. I haven't downloaded, haven't played it yet, haven't had time, but it is downloaded. I am planning to play it after I get a few more time in Blueprints because, yes, I am still diving through that game. I am still running through all those rooms. And there's still a lot to unlock in that game. Getting to room 46 is not the end. That's a goal, but it's not the goal. That's the end of the house, but not the end of the game. There's so much to do, so many more rooms to unlock, so much to unfold in this mystery of a game that it's very, very in depth. And I feel like a lot of people who start blueprints may kind of taper off after your 10th, 11th, 12th try because you're so focused on trying to get to the end that the goal should be to open and find as many rooms as possible, unlock as many secrets as possible, because that is where a lot of this meat is in the game. It's hidden, but they're fun puzzles. They're interesting puzzles, and it gives you that ding aha moment that makes you want to like try something new, try something else, and you'll be like I've been doing, which is seeing different puzzles in your mind as you sleep. Like, oh, what if I just do this differently? And I still the thing I hate about both roguelite and deck builders is that you'll eventually get either stopped or stumped, and there's nothing you can do about it. It just ends a good run and makes you want to like rage quit the game. And yes, that will be a big turn of some people. It has been for me a couple days, but I still find myself coming back. However, I cannot say the same about the next game, Lost Records, Rage and Bloom Tape 2. So I finished this a while ago. I was supposed to talk about it 2 weeks ago, but then I didn't get on it, and I didn't get on it last week. And so now here I am finally talking about Lost Records Rage and Bloom Part 2, or Tape 2. I say Tape 2 because technically they do leave it open-ended where it could be a Tape 3 should they choose to do it, like a little epilogue of sorts. However, Tape 2 does feel disappointing if you do not have all your friends there at the end. This game wants you, and it wants you to have everyone there at the end, but it doesn't exactly help you to get that ending. You got to end it, you got to restart some stuff, you got to replay several missions sometimes in order to find the right kind of dialogue tree to empathize correctly with your now grown adult friends compared to your teenage friends, whatever age they are, um, in order to have that very satisfying ending. That satisfying ending is the one good thing about Lost Records, should you get there. But it's very easy to not get the true ending and then immediately be like, well, that was a waste. Well, I didn't feel satisfied there. Like, I wish there was more, because there is, because you didn't successfully complete the missions. But that's the thing with tape one is though that because there's I guess because of tape one, like you can complete the missions in any way you can and like make your bonds as you go, but it doesn't really affect the overall ending. Whereas tape two is more of a definitive ending and does kind of more taper like how your friends stay or go or however like that happens. Um, so we'll say tape two kind of lost me a little bit more that compared to tape one. That being said, I did go back because I did want to finish it correctly, and I did. I did felt satisfied. But going back and doing everything a second, sometimes third time, did feel more like a chore than a fun experience. Whereas Blueprints, where I'm going back every time, like is a fun experience. So yeah, kind of middling on of that. And Matt's not here to stop me from rambling, but he can't stop me from going to my favorite section, the sports corner. I hope you enjoyed your mint juleps this past weekend because we have a new horse who is on track for the Triple Crown glory after winning 151st Kentucky Derby, and that is Sovereignty. Congratulations to Sovereignty. You now have to go race at Belmont in 2 weeks, where hopefully it won't be as rainy as it was at the Kentucky Derby. Let's see here. Where's my final results for the Kentucky Derby? We had Sovereignty winning with journalism. Uh, Sovereignty what came in won at 9-1 odds. Journalism, who was the favorite going into this at 7-2, finished in second. And coming in at third with 14-1 odds is Beza. And as always, we got to look at some of the fun horse things that enter, including Final Gambit, Owen Almighty, Sandman, named after Enter Sandman, uh, Tis Tastic, Chunk of Gold, Publisher, Citizen Bull, Render Judgment, Flying Mohawk, and of course, Admire Daytona. Fun horse names for not so fun horse racing activities. But yeah, no worrying over the next. Oh, because that is Memorial Weekend, where we'll have the Indy 500 taking car racing feats. That'll be occurring on May 25th, Memorial Weekend. Comment on that. Was the big story going into the night? Fell. Big moment. We're at the Browns in round 47, I think. No. Worst thing to hear. Pick 144 overall, being 144th pick overall. Brady famously, pick number 199, went on to win not one, not two, not three, not four Super Bowls. Being son of Sanders, should he like how that goes? UFL. But there's also like the current relevant, but Brock Purdy, who was Mr. Relevant, is also a starting quarterback. So just because you're drafted that low does not mean all hope is lost. It just means they don't think that highly of you. Anyways, let's go on to the other side of the leagues. We have the MLB, where the Rockies are trailing just about everyone with 6 wins. They are the last team not in double-digit wins. And it's kind of hard to conquer that when you have a minus 91 run differential in the league. On the opposite side of that, though, the Detroit Tigers are leading the MLB with a plus 65 run differential. So don't go to Detroit. You're going to get your bat swung. Um, then we have the NBA and NHL playoffs. Matt technically messed up last week because these teams have been eliminated. So they're not continuing. So you cannot cheer for them. That is the Grizzlies, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Rockets, the Heat, the Bucks, the Pistons, and the Magic. Half the field eliminated. Same thing in the NHL. The Blues, the Avalanche, the Wild, the Kings, the Senators, the Lightning, the Canadians, and the Devils eliminated. You can no longer cheer for them this season. They are now in the off season. While we're talking about the NHL, the Utah Hockey Club, one, did not make the playoffs, but we can no longer call them the Utah Hockey Club as they updated their social media accounts and then released a new trailer for their new name. Get ready, it's the Utah Mammoth. They're coming next year. Those jerseys look sick. The white and the blues and the black, it looks great. Unfortunately, they did not get the Utah Yeti name as everyone was cheering for, but Utah Mammoth, the logo looks great, very sleek. Kind of on board with this. Same about the same kind of hype I had when the Kraken came from Seattle. Like the social media teams for both these guys are top notch. Still don't like Vegas as part of that expansion. And they can suck a puck for all I care. But yeah, new Utah Hockey Club. If you have merch to say Utah Hockey Club, that's now a legacy item because Utah Mammoth are the new names. And that's all I have for sports, but not all I have for new names, as Comcast has spun off a majority of its NBC Universal Cable Network portfolio into a new company called Versant, they said on Tuesday. Versant, which had been previously called Spinco, which was a placeholder until a permanent name was chosen, will now own cable networks including USA, CNBC, MSNBC, Oxygen, SYFY, and the Golf Channel, as well as the digital assets of Fandango, Rotten Tomatoes, GolfNow, and GolfPass, as well as SportsEngine. The rest of Comcast NBC Universal portfolio, which includes, but not limited to, the NBC Broadcasting Network, the Peacock streaming service, Universal Studios, the theme parks, and specifically Bravo, will remain with Comcast. Chief Executive Officer Mark Lazarus, who spoke in an interview, said he wants Versant to be viewed as a house of brands, with each asset interacting with users rather than the corporate holding entity. The assets held by this new company have generated roughly $7 billion in revenue last year. This is very similar to what Paramount did, where they spun off Paramount from CBS, Viacom CBS and Paramount, where they just became two separate entities, where a lot of the TV shows that were off network, like the cable networks, kind of got their own thing. The digital assets are now part of their own thing as well. And $7 billion in revenue, a lot of that I'm going to say comes from both the Golf Channel, Golf Pass Now, and GolfNow, Golf Pass, as well as Fandango users. E, very popular, competing with Team Z. Do not be surprised if you stop seeing a lot of cross-network promotions between NBC proper and these cable networks. Although it is very interesting that they kept Bravo just because those reality TVs of Bravo, the Real Housewives, the Below Decks, the Southern Charms, and because paired with Peacock, Traders, the big hits at Peacock. We'll talk about the other big hit in a minute here. They kind of need to keep that synergy going between those two, especially since Andy Cohen, who is pretty much the mainstay Bravo host for anything, kind of floated now between both the Peacock streaming and Bravo. It is interesting here that the SportsEngine, whether or not that includes all of the Comcast sports related to the Olympics, the Premier League, and anything else that they still have their hands in, like the upcoming NBA, I believe as well, deal, stays with SportsEngine, and then thus stays with that new company, Versant, or if they're going to keep that as part of NBC Universal, because it is part of Peacock streaming service. It is a deal with Comcast and the broadcast network itself. Very interesting to see where that does go, but that's also because very sports related driven. Sports drives live television. Um, but yeah, your CNBC, MSNBC, they're all part of this new venture, Versant. So both do and do not get used to saying that a lot, because Versant could just be sold off to another um like angel investment stock company, whatever, and just be out of NBC Universal's plate, and all that money now goes somewhere else. All right, let's go somewhere else here into TV thoughts. So, mentioned Peacock streaming service. Well, the best thing on Peacock has finally returned. I'm sorry, that's a lie. I take that back. The second best thing on Peacock has returned, because we all know Gold Zone is the best thing to ever happen on Peacock streaming service. The second best thing is Poker Face Season 2. It's back. Three episodes are up. The next several episodes will be occurring weekly, and it does not lose a beat. You got your fun special guests coming in each episode. Uh, Wicked Witch herself, Cynthia Iridibo, comes in as smashes it as multiple characters in the very first episode, and just puts you right back at ease. Like, yes, this is exactly where I want to be. This is exactly the kind of television that I love watching. It's going to be really hard coming to the end of the year when you have Poker Face, when you have The Studio, when you have The Pit, when you have Severance, just all competing for those like end of the year spots, as well as anything else coming out towards the end of the year. Oh, it's going to be so hard determining. It's a great, great year for television. Oh shit. Is The Bear coming back this year too? Oh, this is going to be a tough year. And we have hacks going on right now as well. Oh, this is a great year for television. If you're not watching television streaming, one, thank you for listening to us, regardless of all that. But two, there's so much good TV to watch that you should not be bored at all. There's a lot of good things, and the good thing about streaming is that you can pick it up and watch it and binge it and go. Just like with the next season 2 of The Devil's Plan on Netflix. Again, first 4 episodes are currently out. They'll be rolling out new episodes on a weekly basis. And because Devil's Plan Season 1 was such a big hit and people watched it, people coming into Devil's Plan Season 2 already have like a kind of step ahead of, okay, we gotta look for clues. We gotta look for puzzles. We're not just like lounging around here where there's gotta be other stuff. And sure enough, they all find them pretty quickly. But the actual games they play um, are a lot of mind games. There are a lot of uh, backstabbing games. There are a lot of social games. They're really, really fun watching Devil's Plan Season 2, especially how they up the ante, knowing that people have watched Season 1. So you can't throw the same kind of twists as before. You got to throw these new ones. And because they know they're going to work together, they're going to solve these things a lot faster. That you can't just have what was a Season 1, these kind of trickling in secrets play out over the course of the season. They're all going to figure out right away. So the fact that they kind of planned ahead of this and got it to be so intricate in not just the stage and the house that they're building, or the not the house, but like the location living quarters that they're building, as well as the different game rooms. Very, very top notch and very, very well done, and very excited to see where Devil's Plan Season 2 remaining episodes have to offer. All right. Um, like I said, watching more of the studio, watching more of Hacks. I did get through the end of The Pit a second time. Still very good television. And I think it is going to be solidified somewhere in my top 5 by the end of the year. So, with that, let's talk about what I'm no longer watching with cancellations and renewals. I don't know if I should call this or not, or do or not, because I said The Equalizer with Queen Latifah on CBS is a good show when it came out. We were at the Super Bowl, was going to get about 4 or 5 seasons, and here it is, the canceled after 5 seasons. The episode that just aired for the season finale, that was now technically the series finale. It has been canceled, has not been renewed. If it does, it'll probably go to Paramount Plus or whatever streaming service wants to pick it up. But as of now, The Equalizer canceled after 5 seasons. Acapulco, its upcoming 4th season will be its finale. That's on Apple TV Plus. Rescue High Surf, canceled after 1 season on Fox. If you like Chicago Wednesdays on NBC, well, they all got renewed. Chicago Med has been renewed for an 11th season. Chicago PD has been renewed for a 13th season. And Chicago Fire has been renewed for a 14th season. Trying over on Apple TV Plus has been renewed for a 5th season, as well as the previously mentioned The Studio. It is coming back. It will get renewed for a 2nd season. Fox had a couple of renewals as well. Going Dutch will come back for a 2nd season. Animal Control with Joel McHale will come back for a surprising 4th season. And The Masked Singer will come back for a 14th season on Fox. And then while we have 14, let's turn that around to 41 as The Challenge on MTV will come back for a 41st season. That does not mean it has been on for 41 years because I think they do 2 a year. But yeah, 41 seasons of The Challenge on MTV. Let's see here. No, let's move on into deaths. First up, we have Jim Smith. He aged 70. He was an animator, uh, a co-founder of Spumco. If that sounds familiar, Spumco was one of the creators of the Ren and Stimpy show, as well as Samurai Jack. So just legendary, just made his stamp, made his mark on the animated world. Uh, Lots of notes for him, praises. He will be missed. Also, I believe Matt did not mention this, but Pope Francis, age 88, been the Pope since 2013, passed away following Easter Sunday service on April 20th. Now, it has been a couple weeks since then. I unfortunately am not named the Pope, although I did try nonetheless. But we do have a new Pope. It is Pope Leo the 14th. He is officially the new Pope. Formerly, he was known as Cardinal Robert Prevost, and it becomes the first Pope out of the United States, originally from Chicago. Before he did some missionaries and ran some, I think it was Cardinal in Peru and the Philippines. But we are now under the reign of Pope Leo the 14th, and Italy now has to recognize deep dish pizza as an official pizza. Oh, and of course, apologies to Ralph Fiennes for not winning both the Best Picture for Conclave, the Best Actor for Conclave, and now the Pope for from an actual Conclave. All right. Let's get into movie news. Thank you, Conclave, for that introduction. You are not in the box office top five, but I'm sure you're in the streaming top five somewhere, as all you could talk about for the past 2 weeks was the Pope and Conclave. And if this happened right before the Oscars, I'm sure Conclave would have beaten Nora, as it should have. Unfortunately, we don't live in that world. So let's get into the box office for this past weekend, where Thunderbolts asterisk debuted to $74 million. Ouch. If I know Matt did not put any numbers on here. If you would put it at 100, I would have said it at least gone over that, because Thunderbolts is technically debuting lower than Captain America Brave New World, which came in at $85 million during its opening weekend. So coming in at 74 is still under that. Technically not the worst performance for Marvel. That belongs to the Marvels from a couple of years ago. But at least there is positive word of mouth coming out of this. And it means it probably will have legs. It is summer season, so maybe it will continue and possibly hit the 150, maybe 200. It's going to have a long battle to do so, especially because summer season is going to come up really quickly. Coming in at two, Sinners at 33 million. That is currently at 179. So just compare those first two movies. Sinners at 179, Thunderbolts at 74. Tides are a tipping to original new releases. Or maybe because Ryan Coogler is just that awesome, people have been doubting him this whole time. At three, a Minecraft movie. It made $13 million. But we can tip the dips back to franchises because it is at 100 or $398 million, easily crossing that 400 already if it has not done so. We also have The Accountant 2 coming in at number 4 with another 9.4 million. That's at $41 million. And running our top 5, Until Dawn at 3.8 million. That's at $14 million. This upcoming weekend, we have two new releases. First up, Shadow Force. This set's getting wide release. I believe it's also an Amazon release, which is probably why it's saying wide release. So check it out there. It's Assassin v Assassin, Spy v Spy kind of thriller. And then we also have Friendship, the new comedy movie with, I want to say Paul Rudd is in this as friends or males making friends in an older age. Not to be confused with the other Paul Rudd film, I Love You Man, which came out, oh God, was that 10 years ago now, at least 15 years ago, if not more? But this is a new friendship film. All right, let's get into well, just like that, I won't make any predictions for us, but although if I had to say something, Thunderbolts I think is gonna stay your number one movie next week. Now let's get into some movie news, and it's the one name on everyone's mind for at least the past month, and that is tariffs. We haven't talked a lot about tariffs here on the podcast because they haven't really affected film, TV. Well, no, we did talk about it in video games with the Switch 2. Well, no, we can talk about it in movies. I take that back. Scratch that, rewrite it. I am correct now. So, tariffs. Whereas the US president has announced that he wants to impose a 100% tariff on movies produced outside the US, but the president's plan seems to be far from a final form, and his announcement has kicked off a broader conversation about the film industry's current struggles and potential policy solutions. In a statement on Truth Social, the announcement came after he met with actors John Voight and two of his business associates over the weekend at Mar-a-Lago. The U.S. president named John Voight, the father of Angelina Jolie and very right-wing conservative actor, one of his, quote, special ambassadors to Hollywood earlier this year, standing toe-to-toe alongside with Sylvester Stallone and Mel Gibson. You know, just three of the oldest actors you could probably find in Hollywood right now. The trade publication Deadline later printed Voight's proposal, suggesting it included a 10% base rate federal tax credit for film and TV productions that could be combined with other tax credits as well. And a, quote, American cultural test that productions would have to meet to qualify. Uh, the US president's initial announcement on Sunday gave very few details, as he wants to do, leaving many in the film industry to question how a tariff on films made outside the US would work, including questions of who would have to pay the tariffs? The studios? The film distributors? Will ticket prices have to go up? Would tariffs apply to international films or to Americans shooting films or filming around the world? And what about TV and streaming shows? That last part with TV and streaming shows is very interesting because there are shows that we watch here in the US. Take, for example, The Floor, Fox game show, The Floor. Technically not shot in the US. It is shot in Ireland. If you watch the credits at the very end, it'll give a little like shot in Ireland a shout out because The Floor, originally a British game. The Floor, as a studio, is made for British audiences. Us Americans are just using the set for our game show. So when they created this out, they decided that it was easier to fly 100 Americans, well, 101 plus Rob Lowe, plus staff and crew from the US to Ireland to film this, to bring it back, to edit and present for US audiences. Now, in that case, it's American actors making an American program for American audiences, but it's shot in another country. Is that subject to tariff imports? When Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, when they shoot in Iceland, Ireland, and all those outside the country places, are those films subject to 100% tariffs because they're being shot outside? The next Mission Impossible film, already shot, all in the editing process. Because that's a worldwide adventure, because of Tom Cruise, is that now subject to being a tariff movie because it was shot and produced outside the US animation studios? Not a whole lot of animation studios, especially animators, occur within Hollywood anymore. You have animators in Canada, in France, in Japan, Studio Ghibli films, um, in China. There's animation studios everywhere, all around the world, working on the same film, whether it's hand drawn or 3D animation. Do those now become subject to tariffs? Because being produced in wholly in either LA or even just the United States is not something typically done anymore, especially on a big budget scale. Christopher Nolan films shot on Pinewood Studios in Great Britain. Dune shot on location across the African desert. There's very little big budget film that does not take advantage of international shooting locations. So do those also become imposed on these terrorists because they're shooting outside of the US? I think the goal here is to try and bring American jobs back to Hollywood. But that falls on its face when you're dealing with international superstars, international box office, big budget films, worldwide global phenomenons that you can't get the kind of shots and locations in a studio that can only be found shooting outside in natural environment in the world. Upcoming Moana 2, or not Moana 2, Moana live action film that's supposed to be coming out, shot in Polynesia. Not technically part of the US. Maybe some of it is, but not technically part of the US. Or even if it is part of the US islands, are those not subject to tariffs because they're not technically US states? It's this whole big mess that may sound good on paper, but has its whole like laws and caveats when you put it to actual practice that completely falls on its face. And much like with most of the tariffs being imposed, that when they put into actual practice, one, who's going to pay for it, who's going to collect it, and is this really a whole lot better than billionaires paying a share of tax and still remaining billionaires? But that's tax law, and that's not here or there. Because we got to pay for taxes and federal government, and tax day was like 3 weeks ago now, and some people are still waiting for their federal returns or not. Uh, but yeah, tariffs have now hit the film and Hollywood industry for both film and TV. We will be watching the space and may or may not be story of the year. But what I do know is that I have been talking for about an hour straight, if not more. Thank you for listening to this voice for the past hour. If you want to hear both my voice and Matt's voice, you can do so by listening to any of our previous episodes over on YouTube. Just search Media Boat Podcast. On Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcast, Amazon, anywhere you just search Media Boat Podcast and you will find us. We're on all social medias. Just search Media Boat Podcast. You can email us, mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com. Occasionally, I will be still streaming on Twitch with Media Boat. You can go find some of our archived writings at mediaboatpodcast.com. And yeah, just write to us. Let us know what's up. let me know if you like my voice and hear me talk for an hour, or if you really, really miss Matt, just let us know and he'll come back. But that'll do it for this episode. We'll be back next week with more news, more thoughts, more Matt, and more of us. In the meantime, have a good Mother's Day, and I'll talk to all of you later.